Well, for instance, Neanderthals, Cro-Magnon, Denisovans, they weren't inferior to us. They were actually spiritually more connected. They were physically stronger, larger brains. We are basically a dumbed down version, and what's to come is going to be another level of dumbing down the car. If you view the soul as the driver, it's like you went from having a Ferrari to maybe it's a Camaro, and then next time it's going to be a Yugo or something. You're just not going to have the same capability. It's like strapping that California emissions on something like a Lamborghini in order to inhibit its ability to function. The souls that come back will be in vehicles that will be much more limited.
Hyperinflation, 11 million job openings, and an energy crisis. Sound familiar? It's like Jimmy Carter in the 1970s all over again. Americans are paying twice as much at the gas pump and the grocery store. The Democrats control all three branches of government, and there's just a couple of questions you need to ask yourself. Do you think you'll be better off in 2022 than you have been in 2021? And do you think the stock market will trade higher the next 3 years than it did from 2016 to 2020? If the answer is no, learn how simple it is to add physical gold and silver to your portfolio ahead of the rise in inflation and predicted price rises. Patriot Gold Group has a no fee for life IRA where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver. Call 1-800-356-4470 and get a free investor guide today. And with the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer from 2016 to present, click on the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video.
I drifted off and I was having this dream that there was a huge wind coming. And in my dream, I thought, holy crap, it's going to blow the greenhouse away. And then when I got up, there was, the wind was like intense and had moved the whole greenhouse a foot. My dream warned me because I didn't even look at the weather outlook. I put some cinder blocks and then we went and got stakes and we got some more blocks to put around the periphery of it, keep it weighed down. Should be okay.
It's almost like you need a dome greenhouse versus the hoop house style. But you can't grow as much inside. So I don't know, it's a 50-50.
But because it's so shielded, and then I'm just going to augment it a little bit, get some 6mm greenhouse plastic, which I had a bunch in Nevada we forgot to take with us when we left, and beef up the frame. But I think the next thing I would do, I would actually just simply build a wooden frame and use the greenhouse plastic that you could get online.
Even if you had 1 acre, did intensive gardening because my wife and myself, we did a huge amount of gardening. You'd be surprised how much you can put out. And I know you know, but people who don't know. And it's an enormous amount of food if you intensively garden. A whole acre, that's an enormous amount of food, an enormous amount. And then those people working together on that piece, even 2 acres could be incredibly productive.
And, still we have plenty of room because we have that one greenhouse, which could hold a bunch of stuff. And that's 20 by 10 by 7. And then we have an area in the back that we were using. That's about 50 by 60 as our main garden. And just as a test run, we'll get a ton out of just a 50 by 60 plot. That's going to produce quite a bit. The one thing I saw was the damage by insects, because it could happen overnight. Those caterpillar worm-like things that get to be about 4 inches long. One day, it just took every single leaf off of several tomato plants. I know we don't have a lot of cold weather here. Typically, we really only have 2 months where you really got to worry about frosts, realistically. Plus, I think we have a little microclimate back there since it is so protected by the wind.
If you can get more space to be able to grow more, because somebody else will work the land for you, food's going to get that incredible valuable that if they're in the food anywhere where their fingers are on it, they're going to want to work for it, help out on the land.
maybe somewhere as far north as southern Missouri, but then I worry about if it gets a lot colder. It's going to be very challenging, and you have the shorter growing season. When you look at where did Bill Gates, where did he buy the most farmland? It was actually in Louisiana.
The things we've been talking about right now, it's about giving people hope that even if you pick up and you have to leave somewhere, you're bringing a skill set with you, like you set up the greenhouse, but now you even know how to do it a third time better if you were going to rebuild it after the second time. And getting all reset up and knowing those skills are there, that even if you have to pick up and leave stuff behind, you still get another place. You can still build it nearly the same, probably even better because you got more experience on what you want to lay out there. Things that are disguised as negatives turn out to be positives. But to give a hopeful thing about it, you can leave, you can get reset up. There's not the end of the world. There's still available land out places. There's still remoter communities that you can get to. That should be the message, that it's still all possible, even though people think it's not. Maybe you have the best home building supply consolidator in the entire country right in your neck of woods there, But out here where it's the end of the supply chain, it's different. So hopefulness that anything can be done at this time. I think these changes in the sun are really going to start to wake some people up. It's almost like everybody's waking up at the exact same time right now. I can feel it. Everything's waking up, literally. It's almost like coming to springtime, sitting out on the farm here, and you'll see it too. When things go from that treeless state and they just start turning green instantly, and you can feel it. It was like that 1 or 2 days, and it goes nothing, into wham, super observable. 2 days. That's the exact same thing that I see is happening with the consciousness right now. There was nothing, and wham, it's hitting right now. Everywhere you look across all genres, people are just like, what's going on? It's got to be another explanation for it.
I think a lot of it is the Pluto return. I think that's what I was channeling this morning, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's, the changes that are going on in people
At
and
a
their
cellular level.
cellular level, energetically with their energy bodies. But let's just say that, there's a mimicking going on in a negative way with everything that's going on naturally in a positive way. This really would be the best of times, really, in so many ways. Even though we'll have some challenges, we're going to be so much more in tune with nature. We're going to know, like I was sharing with you this morning, while I'm sleeping, I'm getting a warning about the wind. While I was sleeping. And it was a warning. And this is the type of intuitiveness that we're all going to develop. Aboriginal people, the Native Americans, they were so much more in tune with the earth. They would know when it was time to, hey, we got to leave this area. They might not understand that a volcano was going to erupt or there was going to be some other natural thing going on, exactly what it was, but they would just know that they have to move on from a particular area before calamity would come in instinctively.
Mm-hmm. In their pineal glands are in touch with the Earth Mother's pineal gland is sending her signals. And I think that's what people are actually experiencing today. A lot of people that we talk to are not sure where they're going to go, but they know they're being pulled somewhere. So people are feeling that instinct to move into alignment and go where they're supposed to go, but it's so convoluted with all of the technology. It makes it very difficult to follow your heart and listen to the planet on where you should go.
Well, there would be people with a lot of issues anyway because of the changes that are going on, because the heart chakra and most people has doubled, and the pineal glands are awakening too very, very fast. And if you're not able to purge, if you're not able to move, grow spiritually, get rid of all the stuff that no longer serves you, it could weigh you down like a rock. And it could end up making a lot of people potentially seriously depressed, in a bad place, or actually manifesting heart attacks and illnesses anyway. And you have this plague upon the land that really is an entity. It's an entity. And in a way, these people are becoming possessed. They're being assimilated into the Borg, whether they know it or not, with all the nanotechnology, slowly but surely going to be taking away their free will and lowering their vibration, because these people, what they want to trap people with them, because the people are a labor resource. just an asset, basically. They're just going to come back and do it all again in another body, but in a vibrational frequency in which it will allow them to control that soul once it comes into a new body.
I never thought about that.
Well,
You're recycling it.
you know, when look at the AI that we're doing when we're answering emails, when we're writing a text message, the AI is giving us these suggestions. And then if you follow these suggestions, it's making the decision for you. And this is their sneaky way of using humans' weaknesses, because we tend to be lazy, but they use that to pull away our free will. And we're handing it over just like it's nothing, and we don't even know it.
You put such the deep visual then of like, the humanity doesn't matter. It's just like a cattle resource, a farmed planet. If you wipe it out, it'll come back, and you'll have better farming methods and more control methods over the animals. And whether the karmatic thing or coming back to experience, they're doing it on purpose to get the same people to come back. Yeah, and the technology is at a higher level for more control, but you don't know. You're just like born into it. And you never even know that there was ever anything before, especially if you can erase history and do those things every 400 years. And then, they know that's the recycle. So maybe I've been here 35 times before, but it started 35 of these resets ago. Because if you're thinking about these resets come up and they know this incarnation continues again and again. So then if you thought about the next incarnation, it would be exactly what's being described right now, like the social track and everything. Everybody will have remembered 3 generations of that. And you just be like immersed into it, just like central banking is now. And so many things that we consider, it's just the way it is. Always been that way. It seems to always will be that way, but it's not. Yeah, they're just recycling you back into myself here. Oh, I've been here 35, 40 times already going through the same thing. And they're stealing everybody's energy.
Many of
Life
us,
energy, literally your soul energy.
yes, very much so.
And think about it. I use this analogy. Well, for instance, Neanderthals, Cro-Magnon, Denisovans, they weren't inferior to us. They were actually spiritually more connected. They were physically stronger, larger brains. We are basically a dumbed down version, and what's to come is going to be another level of dumbing down the car. If you view the soul as the driver, it's like you went from having a Ferrari to maybe it's a Camaro, and then next time it's going to be a Yugo or something. You're just not going to have the same capability. It's like strapping that California emissions on something like a Lamborghini in order to inhibit its ability to function. The souls that come back will be in vehicles that will be much more limited. Over time, this is what they've been doing. Homo sapiens sapiens is much more limited than the ones that came before. Who are the giants? Who were the giants? It's many of us that
Getting
now
sized down and pineal glanded down and corrosion of the pineal gland. What's the size of the body going to be on the next downgrade?
It's what they've been doing. And how many incarnations, this goes back a long, long way. We've not gotten a definitive number, but it does feel like we're talking millions of years.
When I traveled in India, this is many years ago, I had learned at that point 23 million years was the number given. 23 million in India, going back that far. So that would make a lot more sense to the way things are done now. And if you look at the history and you think about if inside the Earth, there are caverns, and again, planetary geometry, where they're going to sit in their orbits like 6,000 years from now when the eclipses are coming, all these things, but they still can't explain to you even what the core of our own planet is, but they're trying to explain the rest of the galaxy like they know it like the back of their fingernail. Oh, it's the back of my hand. I know the galaxy so well. So they don't even know anything in the spiral arm of the galaxy here that we sit in our own galaxy barely, let alone the whole universe.
But it does follow the precession of the equinox is what we've gotten too. So we do come into this time period and they're like vultures or sharks waiting for us.
Well,
And
they call them bottom feeders, the galactics.
yeah,
they're already here.
They're bottom feeders. They know when we're going to come back around into their into their
Galactic.
territory, so to speak. It does have something to do with the precession of the equinoxes. So from what we've gotten, about more than 20, maybe it's about 22.5%, somewhere around that period of time, we're in their zone where they could affect us. The rest of the time, they can't affect us. So, then humanity rebounds, we elevate upward, and we have these golden ages. We actually interact with all sorts of openly. And, knowledge abounds, and the lifespan of humans increases exponentially. Those numbers that you see on the Sumerian kings list are not exaggeration. People are living tens of thousands of years. It's the system that they impose upon us that's shortening our lives so much. All the different energies, frequencies, foods, everything.
Oh, definitely with the foods. They got us there. They got us with the equipment, your phone, your computer, your internet. Then it actually ties you into this fake etheric realm. It holds your energy body down into these realms. And I have yet to channel exactly what it might look like for someone who might have passed away, who's already had the jab. But I am curious, and I do honestly feel that they get stuck.
I know what you mean. Like they get grabbed and like pulled down into some kind of black goo or something like that, and they can't escape. At the soul level, though.
Yeah,
Well,
soul
I mean,
level.
literally, it is scary. It is scary for these people because, the Draco are just right there. They're hovering. They're right there. They're ready to grab you. They're like sharks. They're going to claim you as their own. They're going to grab you and they're going to escort you right back over into another incarnation where they could utilize you again as
Own this animal. We branded it. Look, calcified pineal gland. That's our brand. You don't brand the cattle on the surface of the animal. They calcified our pineal glands. That's our brand as a human on this existence right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so many people are asking for it. They're asking for them to take control over them. Just think about it, like with the interpretations. I pray me now, the Lord to take my soul if I shall die before. You're asking for them to come and control you.
Yeah, because you're asking me to take back by something else instead of absorbed by the creator. It's a vibration, it's frequency, that's all it is. So if they could control that, you could connect, because sometimes in vibration too, you can come to that 0 point where it's a canceling of each thing. So what if it's the cancellation of all noise sound and they're hitting those frequencies, whereas people think it's the noise that they're looking for, but it's the canceling wave to bring it to zero, to bring that, I guess, claim the host, for a better term, the soul of it.
Well, they have their ways. They've done this many times. It's definitely not their first rodeo. So they do know how to put these carrots out there, plant these seeds and let things grow. And we're giving away ourselves. We're just freely giving away our souls. And they don't have to do anything anymore. It's just, we just walk up and say, here we go. We make it that easy. And we got to stop making it that easy.
Yeah. So you mentioned that 20% of the time we're in their range of visible and effect. So the other 80% we're out of the time. Like, when's that cross out period? Because it seems like we're heading toward that. All the Vedic Yugas talk about it. We're moving into the Dwapara Yuga. So that's exactly the same thing, like that cross out. So is there any kind of feeling of, are we in the crossing over them? We're going to lose them out of our visible light range era, or where do we sit now on that timeline of getting out of the soup, if you will?
It's a process. I do think the most dangerous years are the next handful of years. But it's interesting because really, when you look at your channel, the name 2030, that is what we get is the turning point, is 2030. Right around there, that should be the point where they are really losing control and will not be able to hold on to the power that they have right now. Because right now they really do have, I don't want to say absolute power, but they really are controlling the entire chessboard right now. Around 2030, it should be the point where we are on a pretty equal footing, or heading towards that equal footing. And then they're just going to be slowly, just like a spoiled brat kid that knows he's going to lose the game. They get more dangerous. and they'll just be trying to spoil so much and take whatever they can, but it'll be inevitable. But the reality is, there's still going to be somewhat of an influence for the vast majority of people's lives that are alive now. So it will take a while. I mean, it might take another whole generation, another whole 70 years before they're no longer a factor at all. Their power is going to keep waning. It seems like 2030 really is right around that point when that power should start to shift to our favor. But hell on earth is right now, we're just starting to get into it. Through 2025-ish, it's going to be probably where we lose the vast majority of the people, the next 3 years or so, 3.5 years.
Matches up with the grand solar minimum timelines too. And then you think about, well, what could we employ for our own minds, bodies, and spirits to get through this more tumultuous time? Because, with the planetary geometry coming up, that square of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, and the Earth sandwich between that is a second magnetic field. That apex is in October of 2024. So there's going to be vast changes in the skies moving forward from this point. Earth cracks. A lot of things are going to start rifting, and that'll be signed. If an oil pipeline just breaks, or a gas pipeline, or a railroad, or a road itself, or a bridge detaches from the banks, these are all signs that magnetic field's intensifying. So for me, I'm looking at it in two ways. Okay, it's verification that the timelines and the effects are indeed true. Now let's work it out how intense those effects will get each year moving forward until the magnetic field breaks off in 2026, 2027, reverts back to something similar to today, and then just keeps getting further apart every day. And I'm looking to see how governments are trying to protect themselves. Like they have all these last grand solar minimums. The economy either, I wouldn't say collapses, that's the wrong word to use. It reinvents itself completely. So if there's a collapse portion involved in that, but it's a full reinvention of economy and value. And then the governments always seem to change too when people are hungry. What are the best ways to get through this, knowing that how people are going to react when they don't get the food, how governments are going to respond after the people who don't get the food? We're already seeing some interplay here with access to food through the COVID passports. And then who determines who gets the food? I'm not saying me, but through history, it seems that governments have lost control of the populace when they got hungry. This time, it seems everything's prepositioned to keep total control of the population, but also preposition everything, knowing the outcome and what's going to happen with the food, etc. Remove a few out of there, lock the rest down, and completely control access to food. So my timelines are matching up with yours on that. So what's the best way to get through it, I guess, mind, body, and spirit, knowing all these factors that are in front of us? And I ask these same questions every day. I don't have the answer, really, except grow your own food.
Yeah, for sure. Get self-sufficient so you're not relying on them. The other component, which we've all heard about for years, which the guides have been just touching on, there is definitely going to be a big push to herd people into big cities. Just extrapolate that out. Right now, when we see all these cargo ships and stuff, a lot of the stuff that does get offloaded, it's not going to where you would think it's going. It's going to alternative resource centers that are going to be popping up in order to get any food, any sort of supplies. You're going to have to report into these centers. And then, of course, anybody that's on the list, they're going to round up, one way or another. And then eventually, with part of their buying up all the resources, not just to rent at a profit now, but eventually to force people into the cities. They really are, because the cities are going to be just layered with all these technologies, 6, 7G, whatever that's going to look like. And with all the people having all that nanoparticles in their system, they're going to be walking zombies, biological robots doing their work.
We have all this facing us, and what do we do? How do we help people understand? How do they take control of their own lives? And I'm always talking about, one way is to really get healthy, do what you can to learn about alternative methods and keep yourself clean and healthy. And then your spiritual work needs to be done so that when things get really, really tough and you don't know where to turn, at least you know how to turn within. That's so important, I feel.
Heading towards a zombie apocalypse. It truly is. And they taunt us with all this because these people won't have ability to make their own decisions anymore. They're just going to be able to be completely controlled. They're done with Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. And they're going to bring about something that's more compliable, more controllable.
Homo softwareus, so they can program.
Yes.
Here's something that's similar with that. Because even going back in World War II, all those little tiny towns you never, ever have never heard of that were even just like backwaters back then were the ones where they had huge battles going on. And there was always something happening more in the countryside. You know, that land, you needed the front to be there. So they were raising it through the countryside. So every little town got touched. And you think that would have been the safest place? Like you could just avoid World War II, but it didn't happen even back then with way less people. So it's going to be like now, like there's really not going to be a place to physically hide with your physical body. So well, where do you go on the mental side and the spiritual side? And then, you know, how do you get through these changes? Because bug out bag, probably going to, everybody's going to need one because things are going to be so, I don't know, changeable, malleable. Bunch of difficult questions there to dissect, to stay on the positive end of things, to, you know, really show that it is possible to get through this. But the tidal wave of all these things that we're seeing coalesce all at the exact same time, and everybody waking up, everybody is coming to the conclusion of, wait, something's very wrong. I can't put my finger on it, but wait, there's more details over here. And it's all happening at the same, like just starting to roar and get to that boiling point. But how do you stay safe in the chaos? You know, this is my thing, because you think you're safe in the countryside, but that might be the most dangerous place. Like Guadalcanal was the most remote island on the planet before World War II. And you would think that would have been the safest place during World War II. I'm going to run to this island called Guadalcanal, man. Nobody's ever heard of this place. It's a tiny little island. It takes like 16 days to get there by boat. Nobody will ever find me there. And it turns out to be one of the biggest battles in World War II. And that's a true story, by the way. Australian guy. How do you stay safe during these times? You know, what can you give some positive message? Because everything seems so dark and negative.
Definitely develop the spiritual side, because we're going to be able to connect to our guides, even people that haven't in the past been able to. Quiet, still voice inside, that knowing, that's all increasing exponentially. So you really have to develop that. You have to take the time. For me now, and Cindy, it's daily yoga and qigong, and spending maybe an hour minimum every day doing those things, meditation and mantras. So you add that into the mix, then for us, most days it's about 2 hours a day or so of those things, that connecting on the spiritual side. And it's so important, because you might not be even aware that you are being guided. You might just, again, get this knowing, like there's something wrong. I got to stay home today, you know, that type of thing. Or there's something wrong. I got to take a different route than the usual one. Maybe I'm going to avoid the highway today. Little things like that, you know, just listening to those instincts, because everybody has guides, and your intuition will build. That's going to be what's going to kind of keep you safe. You really got to hone that and work on that. The spiritual side's the most important thing.
I hope you got something out of our conversation, because it is serious time, but it's also requiring some serious solutions and serious thinking outside of the conditioning that we've been given, or infinite beings. And it's time to take our planet back.